Hi, kids.
It's me, your old pal Uncle Chuck again, and Presto the Wonder Cat has decided to honor us with his presence. Tonight, or today, or whenever you happen to be seeing this, I'm going to discuss a little film called The Quatermass Experience, or the Quatermass Experiment, aka, as I knew it, as I knew it when I saw it as a little kid, the creeping unknown. All right, so this one is a product of Hammer Films, and presto, came out in 1955, and was written or at least based on. Hmm, yeah, well, it was by Richard Landau and Val Guest, but it was directed by Val Guest, Hammer Film staple, and based on the original Quatermass series, based on the series, which is basically season one or series one in England, by written by Nigel Neal, and this was almost the Quatermass series, which lasted a couple of seasons. Was based on was basically almost like a science fiction show. It was basically kind of like a forerunner to what would eventually become the Doctor Who series. Um, anyway, this particular version stars, this British American rocket group headed by Professor Bernard Quatermass. It's very natural to read those words and say Quatermass, yeah, but yeah, take another picture, I'm gonna harden my heart. Uh, Quarter Flash. Sorry guys if you don't get the 80s reference. But in this story, he is the head of this space program, and Mister Kitty. He's but this rocket that gets sent out into space with a three-man crew uh, ends up crashing out in the countryside, and the fire department, God knows what else, are all out there, and Quatermass is out there commandeering the whole thing, commandeering the breaking open of the rocket, and they eventually rescue the one surviving astronaut, who is named Karoon. Karoon, played by Richard Wordsworth. Who in a lot of ways is kind of like the emotional anchor of this movie. You're basically watching him as he survives this outer space dilemma, and just kind of the terrible repercussions he suffers. And but they bring him back, and they're running all these tests on him, and the other two guys are basically are dead, just basically apparently disintegrated in their spacesuits. Karoon is traumatized, messed up, doesn't talk, and his skin gets weirder and weirder as it goes. And it gets kind of like this grayish hue, kind of gnarly looking. And, Quatermass is this whole hard ass, no, we got to keep him here. We've got to run tests on him. We got to figure out what's wrong with him. And finally, his wife busts him out. Finally, his wife gets him, kind of helps to get him discharged. And as soon as he's riding down the elevator to freedom, Karun kills a guy and just hauls off and kills him. And so his wife takes him out in the car, and he's very hurt, very injured, very messed up, and he's borderline crying. And she finally pulls over and says, "What's the matter, honey? Talk to me." And he just reveals this arm that he's been hiding the whole time, and that thing is mutated and become huge, and seems to have like quills in it or something. And she's holding a coffee cup or something, a cup or a purse or whatever it is she's got. I mean, he smashes it and bolts, and he's just kind of running across the countryside. No one can find him, but there are signs of the damage he's doing. And Quatermass and his team are back at the labs, kind of running these tests on the tissue samples and whatnot. And they're developing into some horrible thing that's like, killing lab animals or whatever, and very alarming. And so it's like, yeah, this could be what infected him, and this could be, what's really wrong with this guy, Karun. And so, Karun and when I watched this and I was like 8 years old, I was just like, 8-year-old autistic kid out to lunch watching this movie. And basically anytime, the suffering astronaut stumbling across the fields and turning into some kind of golem wasn't on screen, I zoned out. It's like, words. But I just remember him like lurking in a barge, or going to sleep in a barge and waking up the next morning, and there's this little girl, just with her dolls down by the river. It says, "Oh, hello, would you like to come be my friend?" And the guy just kind of looks at her and deals with her for a few minutes, and he's not talking. If he can talk, he's not talking. But, she's just playing with him with her dollies and all that. She's just like, he seems very sad. Cheer him up, will you, dolly? And he finally, in this great state of angst, knocks the doll's head off. It's like, dude. Little kid was trying to be nice to you. I understand if you're cursed by this horrible infection, but don't go destroying her dolls. But anyway, that's the one part of the movie that sticks out to me from my childhood. The one part. Eventually, I think they were able to trace that he went through a zoo, and they were able to see the havoc he wreaked in a zoo with some of the animals and whatnot. And eventually, when they find him, he's in the rafters of an old church, and he's mutated into this big blob with like vines creeping all over the place and trying to grab people and whatnot. And so Quatermass and company rig up the rafter he's on with electrical voltage, and they've got a TV crew in there and everything else. And long story short, the mast that used to be astronaut Karun gets fried. They basically electrocute it, and it bursts into flames, and then I guess he's dead. Guys, if I were you, don't you think maybe you should have just really cooked that thing until there was nothing left of it? Given that this thing could have infected the world, do you not think maybe you could have like cooked it to a little black rock and, I mean, just dropped it into like a 20-foot by all sides, like block of concrete and, sealed it shut and just buried it beneath 1,000 miles of earth to where, it basically isn't ever going to be, in danger of coming into contact with a living thing. Maybe take little precautions like that. I mean, call me crazy, call me anal retentive, whatever. Anyway, so, Quatermass, just once this thing is cooked or fried or, given the great cosmic electric chair, kind of walks through the halls of the church, walks past all the officials, and walks off down the street, walks into darkness. Like, Professor, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? Friendly animal skirmishes, ladies and gentlemen. What are we going to do? And he says, I'm going to go shoot off more rockets. I'm going to go put more up into space. And, boy, hell of a way, to introduce Britain's sci-fi hero to the world. Just marching off into darkness, swearing he's going to keep on doing this, and God knows, probably bring, I don't know how many more space infections or whatever else to Earth. Yeah, so as he walks off into the shadows saying this, and I don't know if the message that's being sent there is science marches on. Yeah, it marches on with just dauntless bravery into darkness. Wow, terrific. Yeah. Great having a guy like that in charge of the space program. And the guy is one thing I was gonna say, the big bee in the bonnet, particularly with Nigel Neal, is the casting of Brian Donlevy, who's an American actor, as Quatermass, and he's I mean, sticks out like sore thumb, really. And Nigel Neal absolutely hated him in the role, and just watching it, I can understand that if you don't have, just kind of, and I can almost see just kind of like the hard ass American kind of vibe being given to this character, and and there is nothing particularly engaging about him, either in the way he's written, or in the way he's presented, or in the way he's played, and so yeah, I mean, the original actor, particularly in season one, because he was played by two different actors in both of the seasons of the TV show. The original actor would have been, and what big would have been in Nigel Neal's case, would have been ideal for the role. Unfortunately, he died after season one, so that wasn't going to happen. And but they chose to, cast this American actor as Quatermass, and spoilers, because you're gonna note that I don't do a review of the second movie, which in which Donlevy also plays Quatermass. This, I don't know, to be honest with you, to be fair, this is a pretty good little cosmic horror flick. Nice kind of science fiction, space exploration, cosmic horror movie. And it's a nice little introduction to Quatermass as kind of being the forefront of that. The sequel, which I've kind of spot watched, I haven't sat through the entirety of it. I feel like it's a worthy sequel. It's a worthy continuation of this series. But but I'm kind of skipping over that, at least for now. But anyway, I just wanted to kind of say, yeah, well worth seeing. My big takeaway from the Quatermass Experiment, aka the Creeping Unknown, still, dude, dude, Brody, crazy animals, dude. You didn't have to bust open the kid's doll. You didn't have to do that. That little kid was trying to be nice to you and stuff. You know,